Dear students, it is going to start the fourth portion of the rise of nationalism in Europe. The title of this portion is The Making of Germany and Italy. It is a very relevant question that rises in 4.1 the Germany. Can the army be the architect of a nation? Regarding understanding this statement or this question, we will start to understand what kind of circumstances after the 1848 the startment and the development of nationalist sentiment throughout the Europe. But after few years, the conservative circles have admitted that this feeling of nationalism or nation state is very enthusiastic and emotional attachment sentiment for the people. Why not you exploit this? So by and large, the conservative circles have hijacked the nationals and national feelings and nation states aspirations of the people. Those who are fragmented in various principalities, counties, monarchies, and they are struggle to unite themselves. Then the monarchy have get and just imagine it is a good opportunity to accompany it with this sentiment and being able to enjoy the bigger political unit rather than today. So they have united themselves and they are being the supporter of. And people also imagine that these many counties and principals and monarchs are accompanied with various regions, the part of their imaginary motherland. We cannot be taken by themselves without the support of military and politicians and political intervention. So they have to accompany it with hand and can be observed in the process of Germany and Italy, can be unified as a nation state, but these are being supported by the conservative circles because the conservative admitted that if they accompanied and supported or associated with the nationalists, then we are able to enjoy the greater stake in the peoples and the resources and the area also. So by and large, nationalist feelings were widespread among the middle class Germans, and 1848 tried to unite the different regions of the German Confederation, which was made by the Napoleon in 39. Nation states governed by the elected parliament, they are their sentiments, were the liberals' initiative to the national building or nation building, however, represented by the combined force of monarchy. This monarchy is also supported by the military, and by the support of military, the landowners of the Prussia and the king of the Prussia also being accompanied with them, and the Prussia and the leaders of the movement for the national unification, it was a masterminded by a great statesman and politician, Otto von Bismarck. He was called the architect of German unification. and carry out forward with the Persian army and the bureaucracy. He gets support the Persian army and bureaucracy, and the Persian army was voluntarily recruited nationalist or the self-enthusiastic youth who were going to support or sacrifice for the sake of nation, and those areas which were controlled by the Prussia and the Denmark and France, the Bismarck had fought a very complicated and bureaucratic tactical warfare with them. It's taking the almost 7 years, and finally January 1871, with the support of Prussian bureaucracy, military, the landlords, and by the sentimental or voluntary support of nationalists, they had become to control the German-speaking German nationality and national areas, and by them the Palace of Versailles was become the place to rise a nation called Germany, with the unification of German-speaking areas in Austria controlled by the French, and the major portion was controlled by the Prussia itself. And Prussia's king, Kaiser William the First, was become the first emperor of Germany. So the nation building and the process in Germany had demonstrated a dominance of Prussian state, because the unification of Germany was completed in the leadership of Persian king, and the tactical and the military support and bureaucratic and army invasion in the leadership of Otto and Bismarck. After taking off, the King Kaiser William have introduced many modernizing and reforming initiatives like modernizing of currency, banking, legal setup, judicial system, and the Persian measures had practices often become the model for the rest of the Europe or rest of the Germany at that time. Finally come to the next phase, the unification of Italy. The unification of Italy was a more complicated task than the Germany, because like Germany, Italy was also have a long history of political fragmentation, and the Italian were scattered over several dynasty states as well as the multinational Habsburg Empire. During the middle of 19th century, they divided into the 7 states, which only one, Sardinia Piedmont, was ruled by Italian princely house, but other 6 are ruled by the other racial uh, dukes or landlords, or the feudal lords. Austrian Habsburg or ruled by the Pope. Southern region were also dominated by the Bourbon King of Spain. Even the Italian language is not required as a common form of a language in the all region of Italy, because this language also be contaminated with neighboring countries. But by and large, as a Giuseppe Mazzini was a freedom fighter, we already learnt about them and their organization, about him and their organization, and put together with a coherent program with unitary Italian Republic and also formed a secret society called Young Italy and dissemination of its goal. Failure in revolutionary uprising in 1831 to 1848 was by the Sardinia movement under the ruler king of Victor Emmanuel II. It's going to accompany and the start the unification of Italy from a possibility of economic development, political dominance. So the Sardinia Piedmont king have get a better opportunity to being a king of a larger area if the total 7 regions of Italy will be unite. Just like the Ottoman Bismarck, the chief minister of Emmanuel II Sardinia Piedmont, the Cavour, was also called the architect of Italy, and neither revolutionary nor the democrat, he was a diplomat. Like many other wealthy or educated members of Italian elite, he spoke French rather than the Italian. But he was a mastermind person. Through the tactful diplomatic alliance with France and Cavour, Sardinia Piedmont succeeded defeating the Austria-France in 1859. And apart from the regular troop, a large number of armed volunteers under the leadership of Giuseppe Garibaldi joined the fray. Fray means a highly indisciplined mob was getting a very fragmented and uncommanded invasion or control. South Italy and Kingdom of Two Sicilies has succeeded winning the support of local peasants in order to drive out the Spanish rulers, because they are neighboring of them and they are not very keen to support of the Spanish king. But after the 1861, the Victor Emmanuel have proclaimed king to united Italy, and much of Italian population, among whom rate of illiteracy and they are very high. It was very interesting that the majority of the people of Italian race were not able to understand the nationhood and national sentiment or nation state feeling of Italy, but they are enthusiastically being a part of this fray and this militia, despite they are united to accidentally with not Italia to be believed to the where they are fighting for the La Talia, the wife of Emmanuel, the king of Sardinia Piedmont. And by and large, finally, get to the point, the struggle of the case of Britain is a very strange case. Despite, unlike the Germany or Italy, because some historians said that the Great Britain is the good example of nation state, but it's not very obvious, because the Britain is like a political unit or deliberately making a political organization in the control of English dominant system, because you know that the Great Britain as a formation of nation state was not a result of sudden upheaval or revolution. It is a very great long drawn process or progress, and British period as the 18th century was not a country, primarily entities of peoples who have inhabited in the British island, or ethnic such as English or Welsh, Scot or Irish. This island is complete with 4 kind of racial entities, the English, the Welsh, the Scot and the Irish, and they are 4 other ethnic groups. So they have own culture, their own political traditions. But the English nation suddenly grew wealth, importance, and power due to the Industrial Revolution, and it was able to extend its influence over the other nations in the island. So the English Parliament have seized power of monarchy to 1688 to end of the uh, protracted conflict, and by and large the instrument through which the nation state with England and its center come to force, and the Act of Union from 1707, England and Scotland being united with the invasion and by the defeated and made by defeat of English, and the formation of United Kingdom of the Great Britain in 1707. And the effect was the English able to impose influence on Scotland, and the parliament henceforth dominated by the English members, and the growth of British identity means the Scotland's distinctive culture and political institutions were systematically suppressed with the dominance of English, and the Catholic clan and inhabitants of Scottish Highlands suffered the terrible repression whether the implemented to assert the independence. Those who are uh, slightly being participated with the liberation from the English, they are brutally suppressed, and the Scottish Highland were forbidden to speak their Gaelic language, and deliberately impose the English language, English culture on the Scottish people. And Ireland suffered the same fate just like the Scotland. It was a country deeply divided into between the Catholics and Protestants, and in the English help to the Protestants of the Ireland establish their domination and largely the Catholic country. But the Catholic revolt them to British dominance to support her because the British and England is Protestants a majority country, and this division of Irish people between the Protestant and Catholics, British has played the divide and rule and supported the Protestants in Irish homeland, and they are being become supporter of the British. And Catholics are called nationalists. They have get a violence revolt, but finally their own peoples, the Protestants, continue to support with the United Britain, and by and large they are controlled. And finally, the British nation were forced throughout the propaganda of dominant of English culture, and the symbol of new British flag, Union Jack, national anthem, God Save the Noble King or Queen, English language were actively promoted, and older nations survive as a subordinate partners of this unit. So those scholars or historians stated that Britain or Great Britain is the unique example of nation. It's not a unique cultural dominance over the other three, the Wales, the Scottish, and the Irish, and the English culture will become highly dominant and control other three cultural entity and make the Great Britain also called the United Kingdom. So this is the process and formation of the nation states. The states based on the sentiments, states based on the historical entities and identities on the basis of their collective and sense of belongingness. In the next phase, we will discuss the visualizing of the nations and the impact of the nation and nationalism on stake with the imperialism. Thank you.